Did you know that a staggering 40% of school funding now comes from corporations, not your taxes? This may sound like a modern-day sponsorship, but it's far more insidious. Today, we're peeling back the layers of the school system to reveal not just the foundations, but the dark corners rarely scrutinized. What lies beneath might just change how you see education forever. Is our education system designed as a beacon of knowledge? Or is it, in fact, a machine with far darker intentions? As we delve deeper, you'll discover the shocking ways our schools are shaped, not just by educational leaders, but by hidden agendas that prioritize profit over enlightenment. Stay tuned, because today, we're not just learning, we're exposing the hidden truths that have been kept from public view. Why? Because understanding the real purpose of our educational institutions is the first step towards true knowledge. Ever wonder why school feels so regimented, like you're just another product on a conveyor belt? Well, buckle up, because we're taking a trip back to 19th century Prussia, where it all began. The system wasn't designed to churn out innovators or free thinkers, but obedient soldiers and docile citizens. So why did this factory model catch on globally? Simple. It was incredibly effective at producing a controlled, predictable crowd. Education became less about learning and more about conforming. Everyone learning the same things in the same way, never daring to question the way it's always been. And guess what? Those old school tactics didn't just fade into history. They've carved deep grooves into our modern classrooms. From the relentless ringing of bells that shuffle us from one class to another, to those dreaded standardized tests sizing everyone up with the same ruler, the ghost of the Prussian system still haunts our halls. But let's get real here. If the very foundation of our education system was built for control rather than enlightenment, are we really helping the next generation, or are we just stifling their potential? Are we igniting their curiosity, or are we snuffing it out, forcing them to memorize facts instead of encouraging them to question what's around them? Let's tackle the biggest lie we're told about school right off the bat. The belief that doing well in school is your golden ticket to success, happiness, and financial stability. Everywhere you turn, it's the same old song. Get good grades, get a good job, and everything else will fall into place. But how true is that in today's world? Here's the reality. While education is undeniably important, it's not the be-all and end-all. Think about it. How many of us know someone who aced their tests but struggles to make ends meet? Or the flip side, folks who barely passed but are driven, have great people skills, and are killing it in their careers or businesses. This belief is drilled into us from a young age, setting up many for disappointment. It promotes a narrow path to success, ignoring the myriad of ways people achieve their goals in life. It's not just about the grades. It's about creativity, resilience, networking, and yes, sometimes going against the grain. So why does this myth persist? Because it's comfortable for those in charge. A predictable, controlled society is easier to manage. But here's where we hit a crossroad. Do we continue to buy into this outdated script? Or do we start writing our own stories, questioning the norms, and truly exploring all avenues to personal and professional fulfillment? It's time to bust this myth wide open and shine a light on the real picture. Education is just one piece of the puzzle, not the entire picture. Let's redefine success on our own terms and encourage a system that values diverse pathways and real-world skills just as much as textbook knowledge. Ever feel like school was more about following the rules than learning to think for yourself? Well, it's not just a hunch. You're onto something. It might sound a bit Orwellian, but what if I told you that our schools are designed not just to educate, but to mold minds into a certain shape? That's right. It's about keeping things orderly and predictable, not messy and creative. Think about it. The bell rings, you move. A bell rings again, you stop. It's like being in a factory, right? This isn't just about making sure you know your math and history. It's about teaching compliance. The whole setup, from those mind-numbing standardized tests to the rigid class schedules, is meant to churn out people who fit neatly into boxes, people who don't question, don't disrupt, just follow. And it doesn't stop with how we move or how we're tested. It's in the dress codes, the rules about what you can say, or even how you can argue. It's all part of keeping everyone towing the line, because that makes it easier to manage the lot. But here's the kicker. What happens when we prioritize order over curiosity? Creativity gets kicked to the curb. Critical thinking, more like critical compliance. We end up with a bunch of great rule followers, but maybe not great innovators or questioners. And that's not just a bummer for those kids. It's how we all get screwed over. When the young minds of tomorrow are trained to march in step instead of stepping out of line, we all lose out. It's high time we started asking, are our schools setting up our kids for their futures, or just keeping them in line? As we dig into this, we might just find that our push for control is crushing more than just spirits. It's squashing our future potential. All right, let's peel back the curtain on one of the least talked about parts of schooling, the money trail. Yeah, you heard right. Our schools are more than just learning centers. They're also booming businesses, and not just in the way you might think. It's not about a few ads in your yearbook or banners at the football game. We're talking deep systemic influences that reach right into your classroom. Take, for instance, all those shiny tech gadgets and software packages schools love to boast about. Sure, they look great in a sales brochure and feel modern in the classroom, but let's be real. This is also about grooming a whole generation of loyal customers. Then there's the giant elephant in the room, standardized testing. This isn't just a headache you have to suffer through a few times a year. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. These testing giants are shaping what you learn, how you learn it, and why. It's all wrapped up in nice words like accountability and benchmarks. But ask yourself, who's really benefiting here? This cycle of influence isn't just making a few people rich. It's reshaping our education system. Companies pushing tests, textbooks, and tech are not just selling products. They're steering educational policy. More tests mean more books sold, more software licensed, and the cycle continues. So, what's the real cost of corporate dollars in our classrooms? It's simple. Education starts to focus less on sparking curiosity and more on consuming products. We have to wonder, are we really being educated, or are we being trained to be consumers from day one? It's way past time we demanded to know who truly benefits from these so-called advancements in education. Okay, now let's tackle another touchy subject, indoctrination. It's a heavy word, right? But when you peel back the layers, it's pretty clear that our schools aren't just about the 3 R's anymore. They've become battlegrounds for hot-button issues. And whether you realize it or not, there's a lot of steering going on about what you should think, especially on controversial topics. Take topics like sex education, climate change, or evolution. These aren't just academic subjects. They're political footballs. Depending on where you go to school, you might get a completely different perspective on these issues, one that aligns closely with the prevailing local or political winds. It's less about presenting facts and encouraging critical thinking, and more about molding viewpoints to fit a specific agenda. And it doesn't stop with the curriculum. School policies on things like speech, assembly, and even dress codes can subtly, or not so subtly, push a certain narrative. It's all part of a larger picture, creating a generation that thinks a certain way, not necessarily a generation that thinks critically about every angle. So what's at stake here? It's big, the ability to think for ourselves. When schools become echo chambers of specific ideologies, where's the room for debate, for questioning, for developing your own informed opinions? It's way past time we took a hard look at what's really being taught and why. Are we educating open-minded, well-rounded thinkers, or are we programming the next generation with preloaded opinions? It's high time we demanded more than just surface-level education and pushed for teaching that fosters true critical thinking and open debate. All right, we've covered a lot today. From the origins of our school system, designed to produce obedient workers, to the big bucks driving educational policies, and even the tricky waters of indoctrination in classrooms. It's a lot to take in, isn't it? But understanding these layers is crucial if we're to really grasp what's at stake with our education. So, what have we learned? That the school system, as it stands, isn't just about reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's about control, profit, and molding minds to fit into predefined boxes. It's about ensuring that the status quo is maintained, that the machine keeps running smoothly, and that the next generation slots right into place without too much fuss. But here's the kicker. It doesn't have to be this way. Education can be about enlightenment, about sparking curiosity, about nurturing critical thinking, and fostering a love for learning that goes beyond just memorizing facts for the next test. Imagine a school system that really prepares us for the future, one that teaches us how to think, not what to think. A system that values creativity and innovation just as much as it values traditional academic success. Isn't that the kind of education we all deserve? As we wrap up, think about this. What role can you play in pushing for change? How can we collectively demand an education system that truly benefits everyone? Not just those pulling the strings behind the scenes. Thank you for joining me in this deep dive. If you found this enlightening, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content. It's time to get involved, to speak up, and to ensure that the future of education is bright, open, and inclusive for all. Because at the end of the day, if we're not part of the solution, we're part of the problem. Let's make education what it should be, an empowering tool that helps us all reach our fullest potential.